Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 66. We are going to talk about Cat People from 1982. I rented this from Amazon Prime. I had not seen this before. Begin by discussing the prominent crew and cast. This film was directed by Paul Schrader, written by Alan Ormsby, with effects makeup by Thomas R. Berman. Paul Schrader got it right when he said, "It doesn't really matter what I do. The first line of my obituary will be the writer of Taxi Driver." Raised in a strict Calvinist household, Schrader's upbringing deeply influenced his artistic sensibilities, sparking a lifelong exploration in themes such as alienation, existentialism, and spirituality. He co-wrote Raging Bull from 1980. His best-known directorial work is probably American Gigolo from 1980. Alan Ormsby's career began in the realms of low-budget, independent horror films, where he honed his skills as a writer, director, and special effects makeup artist. Thomas R. Berman earned an Oscar nomination for his work on Scrooged in 1988, but my favorite work of his was on Howard the Duck from 1986. Cast includes Nastasia Kinski as Irina Gallier, Malcolm McDowell as Paul Gallier, John Hurd as Oliver Yates, Annette O'Toole as Alice Perrin, Ruby Dee as Famale, and Ed Begley Jr. as Joe Cray. Nastasia Kinski, a German-Polish actress, rose to prominence in the 70s as a teenager, often cast in roles involving significant nudity. As a result, she felt typecast and later acknowledged she felt uncomfortable with the nudity, but didn't feel like she had the option to say no and had no one looking out for her. Malcolm McDowell became a superstar as a result of playing Alex in A Clockwork Orange in 1971. He was so captivating as the violent punk that he earned himself a steady career playing villains. During the notorious Ludovico scene, McDowell's eyes were clamped open using a surgical device for eye surgery. The doctor applying the eye drops in the scene was an actual physician on hand in case of injury. McDowell's cornea was accidentally scratched as a result of the eye clamping, and he suffered temporary blindness. He declined to be awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1984 and the Knight Bachelor of the Order of the British Empire in 1995. John Hurd is most fondly remembered as the patriarch of the McAllister family in Home Alone from 1981 and its sequel. Annette O'Toole is a busy actress whose sole Oscar nomination is Best Original Song for A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow from A Mighty Wind from 2004. Ruby Dee is best known for originating the role of Ruth Younger in the stage and film versions of A Raisin in the Sun from 1961. For her performance as Mahalie Lucas in American Gangster in 2007, she was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Ed Begley Jr. is certainly best known for his role as Dr. Victor Ehrlich on the television series St. Elsewhere, for which he received 6 Emmy nominations, one for each season the show was on the air. I really wrestled with this segment. Do I endorse the 1982 version of Cat People? Yeah, I think I do. It may not rank as the finest werewolf-related film, nor does it squarely fit into the horror genre. It stands as an early specimen of the erotic thriller, and I'll delve into that aspect later. Now, this is a remake of the 1942 Cat People, rather than a sequel to it. It draws upon elements from its predecessor and expands upon them. Characters such as Irina, Oliver, and Alice retain their original names and maintain similar interpersonal dynamics as in the original film. However, modifications and additions are evident throughout. New characters, like Paul, are introduced, and the setting changes. Aspects of the original characters were altered. For instance, Oliver and Alice now hold more narratively fitting occupations. Additionally, it's worth noting the unmistakably 80s synth score of this movie, which conjured vivid flashbacks to my teenage years. So let's go over the synopsis. A prologue set in an undisclosed primitive human settlement shows a black panther roar under a dead tree in a red desert. A sacrificial maiden is tied to the tree. A black panther approaches and rests its paws on her. The scene fades to black. Another girl with feline features approaches a panther in a cave without incurring its attack. A close-up of her face segues to a similarly featured Irina Gallier, a young woman raised by adoptive parents who is reconnecting with her older brother Paul. Paul lives in New Orleans with his Creole housekeeper, Famale. Paul catches Irina up on their family history and culture. He also gets way too close to her and watches her sleep. That night, a prostitute named Ruthie finds a black panther in the hotel room where she was supposed to meet her client, and it nearly takes off her foot. She barely makes it out of the room alive. The panther is trapped, and experts are called. Zoologists Oliver, Alice, and Joe tranquilize the panther and transport it back to the zoo. Irina wakes to find Paul missing. Famale guesses he left for the mission and urges Irina to enjoy New Orleans on her own. Irina decides to spend her first full day in New Orleans seeing the sights. First, a bus ride through an extremely empty French Quarter, then a taxi ride to the zoo, where she is fascinated by the new panther. So fascinated that she is still sketching it 90 minutes after the zoo closed. Oliver startles her, and she drops her sketch pad and runs, winding up on top of a tree. Oliver coaxes her down. After noticing that Irina feels excessively warm, Oliver takes her inside and puts a cool cloth on her forehead. Thinking that her exhaustion might be due to hunger, she invites Oliver to get some dinner. Oysters. The pair have obvious chemistry. During the impromptu date, Oliver hires her to work at the zoo's gift shop. On Irina's first day, Alice and Irina get lunch, where Irina reveals that she's a virgin. A strange woman calls Irina mi hermana, means my sister. Alice shares a romantic history and is still in love with Oliver. That afternoon, after Irina shares an intense moment with the Black Panther, it goes absolutely crazy. When Joe tries to subdue it, the panther rips Joe's arm off and he quickly bleeds to death. The panther vanishes by the time Oliver arms himself to euthanize the beast. A puddle of melted goo lies in its cage. When Irina gets home that night, Paul turns up. He claims he was in jail. He sexually propositions Irina, telling her that he's the only one who can touch her, and she's the only one who can touch him. Irina is attracted to Oliver and wants no part of having sex with her brother. She flees and stops a police car. She has second thoughts about turning her brother in to the police, but a police dog catches a strong scent from the house, and a detective is called in. Inside Paul's basement, the police find cages, shackles, bones, and parts from dozens of corpses. A check on Paul Gallier shows that he's been in and out of mental institutions since he was 10, after his parents killed themselves. They were circus performers, and Paul grew up around big cats. The cops figure Paul is a serial killer, and he's been feeding the bodies to a captive Black Panther, and they call Oliver and Alice in to investigate. The detective believes that Paul meant to kill Irina too, so he suggests she find someplace safe to live. Oliver offers to let her stay with him. Irina is becoming more and more disturbed. One night, she finds herself naked, running on all fours after a rabbit. It's also becoming more apparent to her that she is falling in love with Oliver, and he is with her, but she tells him that she cannot make love to him. She thinks she's going crazy, just like Paul. A week goes by, and the search for the escaped panther is going nowhere. In the meantime, Paul seduces and murders another woman. He no longer wants to go on like this. He crashes through Irina's bedroom window one night and begs her to have sex with him. He explains their shared werecat heritage, revealing himself as the escaped panther. He tells her their parents were siblings because werecats are ancestrally incestuous, and only mating between werecats avoids the transformation. Paul resumes his sexual advances, hoping Irina will accept their predicament. She refuses and stabs him with a shard of broken window glass. Paul turns into a panther and runs away. I want to know how he turned into a panther. They certainly didn't have sex. When Oliver returns home with Alice, he's attacked by the panther. Alice shoots it dead with a shotgun. The next day, when Oliver autopsies the panther, he is horrified to see a human hand in its stomach. A noxious green gas emanates from the surgical cut. Before Oliver can document this, Paul's corpse melts into a pool of green slime. Bimale urges Irina to leave, live alone, and to hide. She dreams of her ancestral homeland, her brother, and her mother. The next morning, Alice is jogging. She feels something chasing her. Lewiston bus! It's getting late, and she stops at the gym for a quick swim and change of clothes. As she undresses, she hears a growl. Afraid, Alice jumps into the pool. Suddenly, the lights go out, and the growling gets louder. Alice screams. When the lights come back on, Irina stands there with a predatory stare. The receptionist hands Alice her robe, only it's torn to shreds. Alice calls Oliver to warn him, but Oliver is distracted by Irina, who has returned. Irina strips, conveying that she is ready to make love. Afterwards, she turns into a panther, but leaves before harming Oliver. She is spotted near a bridge, and SWAT teams corner the panther. Oliver and Alice arrive. Despite all this, the panther still escapes. Oliver goes looking for Irina. She has regained human form by killing the house's caretaker. Irina tells Oliver she did not kill him because she loves him, and she begs him to kill her. Oliver refuses, so Irina asks him to free her by making love once more. I want to live with my own, she says. Oliver reluctantly agrees. He ties Irina to the bedpost by her arms and legs in preparation for when she changes into the panther. Then they have sex one last time, and the last thing seen is Irina starting to change. In the final scene, Oliver is again in a relationship with Alice. He stops at the cage holding the recaptured panther, Irina, now trapped in panther form. Oliver reaches through the bars, casually hand feeds, and strokes the now docile Irina's neck before she glances at him and roars with dignity. As far as the transformation, the effects crew didn't give us a lot, and what they did give us was hit and miss. Paul and Irina's transformations into full panthers were particularly impressive, rendering them virtually indistinguishable from actual animals, even to trained zoologists. The eye effects during the transformation sequences were particularly noteworthy, and the animal forms straining and stretching the human skin until the panther burst free looked cool. But some of the fake panther stuff looked bad, such as the portrayal of Paul attacking the prostitute from beneath the bed. And there is no hybrid form, just human and panther. So let's talk about the panther lore. Certainly, this film expands upon the limited mythology established in the original Cat People movie. Sexual activity triggers transformation. Only aspect of lore the original film really established. The 1982 adaptation introduces a fascinating new element, the necessity of killing a human being to revert to human form. This concept adds a layer of complexity, suggesting ritualistic human sacrifice as a means of restoring one's humanity. Additionally, the film introduces an incestuous aspect to the narrative, which, while uncomfortable, serves to explain how the cat people perpetuate their lineage despite the lethal transformation consequences of sexual intercourse. It hints at the necessity to take a life to resume human form as a restriction brought on by generations of inbreeding. Furthermore, this genetic aspect of the condition rationalizes the distinction between werecats and traditional werewolves, whose condition is typically transmitted through an infectious bite. The director, Paul Schrader, compared the relationship between Oliver and Irina to that of Dante and Beatrice. So let's explore that theme. I had to brush up on the Divine Comedy, which I had not read in a long time, and honestly only skimmed enough to get through a college English class. The bond between Dante and Beatrice has a rich literary history. It transcends earthly attraction, reaching into the realms of courtly love, spiritual love, and divine inspiration. Dante's adoration of Beatrice serves as the driving force behind much of his poetry and philosophical musings. He elevates her to the status of an idealized figure. According to his accounts in La Vita Nuova, Dante first encountered Beatrice when they were children. Beatrice embodies divine wisdom, guiding Dante on his journey towards spiritual enlightenment and salvation. However, in Dante's magnum opus, The Divine Comedy, the relationship between Dante and Beatrice reaches its apex. In the poem, Beatrice leads Dante on a journey through paradise. She serves as his moral guide and spiritual muse, nudging him towards a deeper understanding of divine truth and the nature of salvation. As Dante ascends the celestial spheres, Beatrice's radiance intensifies, symbolizing the transcendent beauty of God's love. Through encounters with Beatrice, Dante embraces a higher, more profound love rooted in divine truth and purity. In comparing Oliver and Irina's relationship, there are similarities, but also very noticeable differences. The most evident distinction lies in the physical and carnal nature of Oliver and Irina's attraction. Their relationship revolves around sexual tension. Dante's love of Beatrice transcends the physical, elevating her to a divine figure embodying purity and love. Oliver is entranced by Irina's mystique, seeing in her a source of fascination and inspiration that transcends ordinary romance. However, parallels can be drawn between the two relationships. Both Irina and Beatrice embody allure and intense longing, idealized and elevated as supernatural figures of inspiration. Both Oliver and Dante put their love interest on a pedestal. In Cat People, this dynamic ultimately leads to tragedy. So let's finish by talking about the erotic thriller. This genre was born in the 80s. Emerging from the fusion of crime thrillers, film noir, and sexually charged narratives, the erotic thriller became a subgenre within the broader thriller category. Certainly, films before this dealt with themes of sexuality and desire within the thriller genre. However, in the 80s, the genre crystallized with films like Body Heat in 1981. The erotic thriller surged in popularity, with filmmakers capitalizing on the success with films like Fatal Attraction from 1987 and Basic Instinct from 1992. Directors and writers experimented with different narrative tropes, settings, and character dynamics to keep audiences engaged while pushing the boundaries of on-screen sexuality and nudity. However, in the early 2000s, the genre declined in popularity as audiences grew weary of formulaic plots and gratuitous, excessive nudity. Additionally, changing societal attitudes towards sex and violence in media contributed to the decline of the traditional erotic thriller. Now, while the heyday has passed, elements of the genre continue influencing contemporaneous cinema, with filmmakers incorporating themes of sexuality and suspense into a variety of other genres. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing The Beast Within from 1982. Keep your eye on the moon, the silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back here next episode.